So Ben Carson yesterday made outrageous comments about slaves as usual. So let's share that with you, and then I'm going to give you Samuel L. Jackson's reaction, and you're going to love it.
Were other immigrants who came here in the bottom of slave ships worked even longer, even harder for less. But they too had a dream.
No, they didn't. They had a nightmare. They didn't come here looking for a dream. It was involuntary. They came in chains. And I don't want to go through all the things that happened in slavery again, but apparently Ben Carson's thick head doesn't get it. So let me kick it over to Samuel Jackson. He tweets, "Okay, Ben Carson, I can't. Immigrants in the bottom of a slave ships? Motherfucker, please." And now the one we're really going to discuss there is hashtag dick-headed Tom.
I've never seen that hashtag before.
Neither have I, but apparently the American people liked it because there was 252,000 likes.
God.
So now, to be fair, Ben Carson tried to walk that comment back. He went on Armstrong Williams' show. Let's show you that.
Whether you're voluntary or involuntary, if you come from outside to the inside, you're an immigrant. Slaves came here as involuntary immigrants, but they still had the strength to hold on.
That's not how you...
That's not really how it worked. They actually held on for generations and generations, and a lot of them didn't hang on. They were worked to death. And again, for them, America didn't represent freedom. It represented the exact opposite. Okay.
It's like saying if somebody runs up on you in the street and starts wailing on you, you are an involuntary boxer. Still a boxer.
Yeah, and Republicans love to change words. Estate tax becomes death tax. Torture becomes enhanced interrogation. And now slavery has become involuntary immigration.
Yeah.
Okay, that's all, that's all.
It's so easy, just say, I am extremely sorry for my choice of words. It implied that I don't know about the horrors of slavery. I should have put it a different way. Obviously, slavery is one of the worst tragedies in the history of the world.
So
that's all you have to say. You don't have to say, no, I'm actually right.
Yeah. Well, would Samuel Jackson have accepted that apology? Well, we go to his next quote. He told TMZ, an apology is not going to help.
Oh, okay.
He could quit his job and stop talking, period. How about that?
He has to take a vow of silence.
When asked if he thinks the administration should address it, Jackson added, they probably think the same thing he thinks. Which is why they put him in the office in the first place. Of course, they think the same thing he thinks.
Well, they say that they have this idea of the idyllic slavery period, where it's like, yeah, the white slave masters are looking after them. They got them housing, they got them health care. Occasionally they let them learn to read. Maybe it was nice and it was a relaxing time with family and song. They literally say this.
Bill O'Reilly said it.
They said yes, and Ben Carson is just kind of a stupider version of that, basically.
No, that's
the same fiction.
What Samuel Jackson's trying to point out is that that's the whole point of Ben Carson, right? Is so that they could put him forward and say, I didn't say it. I mean, Bill O'Reilly screwed up and said it last year. I mean, it was a youthful indiscretion and 70 some odd years old. But okay, but no, the black guy said it. You see, our one black friend, we got him to say it. Slavery, just involuntary immigration, okay?
See, that's what brings about the dick-headed Tom, am I right? The
exactly.
Hashtag that's heard around the world. Around the Twitterverse. So this is the thing, I always remember there's been a bit of obviously it's a reference off of Uncle Tom. So that's the disparaging term you want to use for a black person who's selling out, who's being the voice that racist white folks want but can't say because it gives them cover. It's easy, it makes it really easy for you. You pick a gay person to talk about how nasty gay people are, and then you pick a black person to talk about how disgusting black folks are, and on, we know that. But I remember looking up and talking about how you can use that term and whether or not it's acceptable, but people hate to be called that. It comes from the book Uncle Tom's Cabin, which I remember there was something about it. At first, it was the Uncle Tom character was seen as a martyr in the book because he stood up, he was protecting slaves that had escaped or something, I haven't read it, and then he was killed for it. So he was seen as a martyr, as a character, as like this is a really strong, keeps to his will black slave. But I read that around 1919, there was a shift and when black Americans we're getting more of this pride going. They're like, we're not gonna be any more of these Uncle Toms. So it suddenly became a negative thing to be an Uncle Tom, because like you need to be a stronger black person in this. So some people still think it could be a positive term because that was the original thought when the book was written, but it's also taken as a bad thing. So
which do you think that Samuel Jackson meant?
I'm pretty sure he didn't mean it as a compliment. So no, you're right, and there is confusion around that phrase, and it's unfortunate because it got twisted. But now, colloquially, everybody means it as someone who's a sellout, right? Now, interesting conversation is how does it affect different races? Who can say it? Who can't say it? Is it a big deal in the black community to call someone Uncle Tom? Like, is that like almost calling them a word where, like the N word, where you go, hey, be cool, be cool? And is a white person allowed to call a black person Uncle Tom?
It's a stronger version of sellout. You know, sellout gets tossed around, it's easy. And no, if a white person, it's one of those things, even there's scenarios when white folks will be like, oh, you know, I'm standing up in support of black folks and not selling out, and you start calling black folks Uncle Toms, you're like, okay, well, hold on. You just observe, stop talking. There's still a line.
Yeah.
You don't jump in as if you know enough of the background or have experienced enough of the background of being a black person in America to want to say, hey, yeah, that's right. Me and my black friends can call you sellout black person Uncle Tom. You're like, well, okay, cool. I like your supporting, but calm down with the terms.
Yeah, and look, having done the show now for 15 straight years, I'd be surprised if I didn't say it at some point, right? When I got all worked up, right? I don't know what I am anyway, right? So, but I'm not black, okay? I'm raceless, as we were talking about earlier in the show, right? Yeah. Apparently, but and it's not about thought police, guys. And it's not about politically correct. It's about being thoughtful about other people's feelings, and so. Knowing that, I think that it makes sense that, hey, maybe it's not my role to say that, even if I've said it in the past.
We have
right?
a society.
Yeah, but even, so part of the reason we're having this conversation is that is not a thing that is said lightly, right? Because now, look, I was in a tour in Charleston, South Carolina just earlier this year, and they explained that the number one thing that the slave revolters, there were several slave revolts. The biggest one involved like 8,000 slaves in South Carolina. And number one thing they had to make sure is that in the words of my African American tour guide, the house Negroes didn't find out, okay? Because they would be the first to sell you out. And in fact, that particular one, the largest one of the house Negroes did find out. They told the masters, and everybody was arrested, and many of the people planning the revolt were killed. Okay, and so to your point about the right wing says they provided them health care. Was the whipping part of the health care? Were the executions part of the health care? Not quite sure about that.
Separating families and rape.
Right. So now, obviously, Samuel Jackson thinks that Ben Carson deserves it, and Samuel Jackson is not a guy who usually tiptoes around the line. If he thinks he's got it, he'll say it. So, what's your take? Does Ben Carson cross the line, JR, into a dick-headed Tom?
The dick-headed Tom part, I guess I'm still trying to picture exactly.
Don't try to picture too hard. Yeah,
it's a fun twist on the term. When you have this consistency, and it's almost like when we saw it, no one went, "Oh my God, I can't believe Ben Carson said such a thing." It was like, oh, here goes Ben Carson again. Yeah. So he has a track record. You can expound on the word all you want, the way that Samuel Jackson did. I'm okay with that. But it's not going to change who he is. So it's kind of falling on deaf ears as far as the target of it. It's not like Ben Carson's going to go, man, Samuel Jackson really knows how much of a sellout I am and how I'm a cover. I think I'll stop doing this. No, it's not going to happen. He's making his money. He's getting his prestige and fulfilling his ego based off of being subordinate to someone who actually hates who he is. So it's okay. Yeah. It's up to him.
I might actually have. I was looking up based on this his Twitter activity. I might have another Samuel Jackson story for tomorrow. He's on the warpath. He's starting up all sorts of issues.
So look, a lot of his characters are on the warpath, and it turns out there's a good reason for that because that's the kind of guy he is.
He played one of those characters, one of the reverse.
Yeah, that's right. He played in
Django.
Django Unchained. He played what is the quote unquote house Negro, and so finally, just a quick defense of Ben Carson, that same speech, he did point out what sometimes can happen to a brain to make it say things it shouldn't say. This is a literal quote from that same speech. Every human being, regardless of their ethnicities or their background, they have a brain, the human brain. You can't overload the brain. Have you ever heard people say, don't do that or you'll overload your brain? You can't overload the human brain. And maybe that's what happened, right? And he just got all that brain surgery. He just overloaded it. And remember, guys, not the elephant brain, not a mice brain, the human brain.
He's an expert on the brain. That's his thing. Like, we criticize him for doing other stuff, but that's his thing. You can't talk about that.
Can you be an expert on the brain without having one?
I have to look.
If you want to see this happen, donate $3, $20, $27, whatever you can afford. You know that if everybody that's watching this video donated right now, we could stop the fundraising because we'd have enough. So go to tytnetwork.com/go. We'll wait while you make the donation. Thank you for doing it and for building a great new journalism team. And thanks for watching.